Court reserves verdict on presidential election petition court's judgment. Guest on Good Morning Nigeria tasked new leadership of EFCC. Medical experts call for increased participation in breast cancer awareness. Good evening and happy new week to you all out there. This is NTW News at 7, coming to you from your heritage station. Thanks for joining us. My name is Olamuni Adeniji. Here are the details of the bulletin. President Bola Tinubu has assured that his team is already working on the workability of the consumer credit facility promised by his administration to discourage corruption, particularly in the civil service. The president was at the 29th edition of the National Economic Summit holding in Abuja. State House correspondent Musbah Wahab reports that the theme of the summit is Pathways to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Inclusion.
This assemblage is equally a priority, and the man in front would not miss it. It's also a convergence of interest as participants from the private and public sectors, chief executives, and other top-level decision-makers are here to lend voices towards setting agenda for the nation's economic transformation. The potentials are great, but the realities are yet gloomy. But then, the summit identifies declining naira value, low access to foreign exchange, multiplication of taxes, and MSME's multi-dimensional complexities among the hurdles along the pathway to the nation's economic greatness.
With more than 100 million of us being multidimensionally poor, there are potentially more risks of stagnation and distress if a low growth and low investment era persists. We know a multi-trillion-dollar economy is viable within a decade of serious reforms, consistent economic action, and deliberate institutional reforms.
The economic realities are currently below expectations, with less than 2,000 naira per capita and 43% of the citizens below poverty lines. But the man at the center, with his forward-looking ideas, says the solutions are in the works with bold economic decisions taken so far.
We have all felt the pain of this reform. Soon, we shall begin to reap the rewards. I believe in the definition of our profession that I inherit the asset and liability of my predecessor. The framework has been put in place to ensure that these obligations are met in due course. My government is not blind to the challenges several of you are facing in the financial markets. I can only allay these concerns by revealing that we have a good line of sight for the additional foreign exchange liquidity that is required to restore market confidence. And we are going to do that.
President Tinubu promises the takeoff of a new student loan in January, construction of affordable homes, among other transformative policies and programs to strengthen the economy.
A $1 trillion economy is possible by year 2026. And a $3 trillion economy is also possible within this decade. The future is calling, and this administration will not hesitate to seize the opportunity of this moment. Our finest destiny is awaiting us all. Let Nigeria breathe a sigh of renewed hope and confidence.
For him, looking back is a distraction, as he now expects workable ideas from this high-level economic gathering for clearer pathways to economic transformation. In Abuja, Musbah Wahab, NT News.
Developing countries are the biggest victims of the speedy transition clamored for by developed countries, who are the main contributors to the greenhouse gas emissions, devastating the climate. APPO Secretary General Farouk Ibrahim reiterates that energy is the biggest catalyst for economic growth and development, adding that sugarcoating the realities will not solve the energy poverty in the continent. Lydia Sampson reports on key takeaways of the Third Biennial International Conference on Hydrocarbon Science and Technology holding in Abuja.
Secretary General, African Petroleum Producers Organization, APU, the Ministers of State Petroleum Resources, Oil, and that of Gas are on the same page with industry players that fossil fuel cannot be jettisoned because of its many derivatives and the ripple effects on developing countries. They agree that unless the continent rids its people of energy poverty, poverty alleviation will continue to be a mirage.
There is technology that will allow you to remove that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and bury it somewhere. And if you do that, you're reducing the intensity of emissions outside.
The whole world is going towards technology. And I think that my own expectation, at the end of this particular conference, is for us to be able to come up with some homegrown solution.
It is imperative that we focus on tackling the issues of energy transition, sustainability, and energy security.
Industry players also emphasize their pivotal role in the sustainable economic development of the continent.
The impact of the divestment of oil and gas industry will be significant as it presents a good avenue for Nigeria and indigenous companies to make a bold statement.
The industry's growing emphasis on sustainability, underscoring the necessity to attract, retain, and upskill our workforce.
We are into partnership with reputable institutions, organizations, and professional bodies in equipping players within and outside the industry for the eventual challenges ahead.
They acknowledge that the industry is at an intersection of complex challenges occasioned by financial obstacles erected by anti-fossil fuel activists, and despite the challenges, they are optimistic of a hopeful panorama in the industry. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
The Supreme Court has reserved judgment after hearing all the appeals filed before it against the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court, which affirmed the election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the All Progressive Congress. Judiciary correspondent Austin Ayede.
Before the Supreme Court are three appeals emanating from the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court. The first one is by the presidential candidate of People's Democratic Party, while the second one is by Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of Labour Party. The third appeal came from APM. The 7-man panel of justices commenced sitting with the hearing of two motions regarding the appeal filed by the presidential candidate of PDP, Atiku Abubakar. The first application filed and moved by the presidential candidate of PDP, Atiku Abubakar, prayed the court to admit deposition from the United States of America on the discrepancies in the certificate the president presented to INEC during the 2023 presidential election. Adopting the motion with 20 grounds, counsel to Atiku Abubakar, Chris Uche, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, urged the court to consider the constitutional provisions and do substantial justice in the appeal, considering the fact that the issue in the deposition seeks to be tendered borders on discrepancies of the certificate presented by the person occupying the highest office in the country, and urged the court to allow the application. Counsel to INEC, President Tinubu, and All Progressive Congress enjoined the court to dismiss the application as they were not party to the process that produced the disposition that the appellant seeks to tender, as it was a mere testimony given in the appellant's law office in the United States of America. The second motion was filed by the respondents, who prayed the court to dismiss the application for lacking in merit, more so that it is not in tandem with the provisions of the Electoral Act. After hearing the applications, the appellant Atiku Abubakar, through his counsel Chris Uche, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, proceeded to adopt the substantive appeal, which challenged the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court, while the respondents also adopted their replies to the appeal. The court thereafter proceeded to listen to the appeal filed by the Allied People's Movement, which seeks interpretation of the Constitution on the alleged double nomination of the Vice President Kashim Shettima. The panel of justices presiding over by Justice Inyang Okoro sought from the council to APM what they stand to gain if the judgment is in their favor, having not come second or third in the election. It went further to draw the attention of APM to the judgment it delivered on the matter. Consequently, the appellant withdrew the appeal and it was struck out. The Supreme Court also had the appeal filed by the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, who challenged the decisions of the Presidential Election Petition Court. He prayed the Supreme Court to upturn the verdict. His counsel, Levi Uzuaku, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and respondents adopted their brief of argument. Having heard all the appeals, the panel of 7 justices decided to reserve judgment as a date shall be communicated to parties. From the Supreme Court, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
Discreetly, diligently investigating corruption charges to mitigate violations of human rights and media trials, guests on Good Morning Nigeria opined may go a long way in engendering public confidence in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission efforts. 20 years of EFCC getting it right in the task ahead of the new leadership, they believe may sometimes require deploying plea bargain to retrieve assets and money from perpetrators willing to cooperate. Lydia Sampson reports.
Issues and corruption by a few elites, Guests on Good Morning Nigeria retreat is a major challenge with ripple effects resulting from influential elites delaying prosecution. The guests decried public trials with persons undergoing corruption charges cleared for appointment or politics.
A beneficiary of a system sees anyone that wants to dismantle that system as an enemy. And this corruption has benefited so many people. This system has benefited so many people. And the FCC had been able to tackle part of it. But part of it, it's become difficult.
And if you look the past, you will see that major challenge that is facing EFCC not able to implement anti-corruption crusade as the way they would have expected is as a result of interference.
Engaging the public to ensure they understand the mandate of the EFCC, they noted, is key to tackling the confidence deficit towards the organization. They reiterate changing the trajectory to ensure persons found guilty must not go unpunished.
As the new helmsman comes in, I wish he would dispassionately look at things with the eyes of an outsider. He has been there before, he's coming back now as chairman, executive chairman. He should ask himself, what are the challenges we face? What are the problems? What are the criticisms? And he should be able to objectively advise himself if we are to make progress. The emphasis should not be on detention. I mean, when I keep saying EFCC seems to derive much pleasure in keeping people. You have even situations where EFCC would have granted you bail, they charge you to court, the same EFCC starts opposing your bail in court, and you came from your house.
They cautioned against categorization of crimes as low or high profile, reiterating that it is from the low that criminals graduate to high. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
You are still watching NTA News. There will be more reports after this break.
Take it from me, the mind-blowing way to do things is the Glow LTE advanced way. When you stream, it's like you're in the drama itself. When you make calls, you reach where others can't. Copy! Doing business is like running Wall Street from your street. And when you play,
I did beat the guy. We'll see about that.
It's like traveling the world without moving an inch.
Is that Toby in your room?
You can download in the blink of an eye in 4K.
Go.
And when you go for your dreams, it's like running with the strength of 3 nations behind you.
Glow LTE Advanced, the power of 3 data networks in one. Get a Glow SIM or dial *301#.
You're welcome back and thanks for rejoining us. Medical experts have advocated increased participation in breast cancer awareness, regularly engaging in self and clinical examinations and early presentation to hospital to fight against breast cancer in the society. Correspondent Rofia Animashan Badmus reports that breast cancer is the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths in women.
Consultant radiation oncologist says the aim of World Breast Cancer Month is to reduce the stigma associated with breast cancer, encourage early detection, promote research and treatment advancement, and improve the quality of life for those living with the disease.
But the best way to discover breast cancer, is by regular self-breast examination. By the time they discover breast cancer in a patient in the hospital, it might have gone far.
I had no cause to it. When I took to the doctor, they read it and I had no issues. But since then, I've always taken it upon myself to always self-examine.
I do it every month. And my mom too helps me too. Whenever I feel this solid lump in my breast, if I'm having my ovulation.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month, popularly called Pink October, people are expected to adopt pink color and display pink ribbon to raise awareness about breast health in Ibadan. Rofia Animashan Badmus, NTA News.
The Nigerian Army is reiterating commitment to strengthening internal security and protection of the nation against external aggression for peace and prosperity of the country. The Commander, Training and Doctrine, Nigerian Army Major General Kelvin Aligbe, stated this at the closing ceremony of the 2023 promotion examination exercise of officers from the rank of captain to major held in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Yemi Dalemo has more.
The Nigerian Army's Captain to Major Practical Promotion Examination 2023 was aimed at identifying the most competent and deserving officers for promotion to the rank of major. Addressing the participants, the Commander, Training and Doctrine Nigerian Army Major General Kelvin Aligbe commended the officers for their gallantry, unwavering commitment and dedication to excellence during the 2 weeks exercise.
The candidates comported themselves. They showed discipline and enthusiasm all through the exercises that they went through, leading up to the exam proper. And that is why we have the kind of result that we have, which we have not had in a long time. 100% pass for all the candidates, both the ones that are here in Abeokuta and the 66 other candidates who took part in the same exercise in the Northeast.
The Army boss appreciated the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja, and Ogun State government for the success recorded during the examination for officers and men of the Nigerian Army in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Participants who were filled with pride and excitement renewed their commitment to safeguarding the nation. In Abeokuta, Yemi Dalemo, NTA News.
And that concludes the news for this evening. The Yoruba version of the bulletin will be brought to you by Idowu Ogunbaju after this break. From me, it is good night.